All right, welcome folks. Mil Spec Ops Monkey here. It's coming up on high noon on March 15th, 2021, coming to you from the great state of Texas. And so without further ado, we will kind of jump into what's going on here with the HUD this morning. And so very interesting, P8s galore. And so I was just looking at this a minute ago and we had, like 8 P8s that were up, which I've never seen that many. It's pretty crazy. So we've got a couple out here on the West Coast doing some things. And then of course the East Coast, this has been kind of our watch spot for a while, but tankers and it looks like our P8s are actually bubbling back into Jack's Naval Air Station. But you can see out here again, this is Cape Canaveral, Port Canaveral off the coast here. And now they were doing it. I did see a couple over the weekend that also kind of ventured out. So it's not like they're just doing it Monday through Friday. And I imagine the sub activity doesn't really care that it's a weekend. So, but we kind of delve in here. Here's another P8. Now this one you can see is also just come out of that area and a little further south. This right here is where Trump is staying, we think. And but that is, kind of what we've been seeing. Of course, this seems to be the area of focus right now, is right off of Port Canaveral. And let's see here. So here's another P8 that's coming off. Another P8. Now that one looks like it came down from Georgia. And we've got a couple. I mean, you can see there are two P8s right here that are just stacked on top of each other. Let me back up and see where this one came out of. Same thing, came off the coast. That looks like it came out of the Charleston area. No, Wilmington. So pretty crazy to see that amount of P8s. This is certainly a lot of activity. I mean, I don't think I've ever popped on and seen, over half a dozen P8s just in one area. And so they definitely are watching this East Coast for some crazy reason. But all right, so it looks like we've got quite a bit of activity up. Let me get just a total count for us real fast. But now I do have persistence on. I'm going to turn that off real fast so we can get an actual count. But 276 mil assets up, 277 right now, and that looks to be just slightly higher than normal. So looks like we're off to an average start for the week. But we'll continue to watch. Now I've been watching a pretty fair amount of activity in terms of C-17 movement and tanker movement. And so now keep in mind, like we've said before, these tankers, these 135s they can carry cargo. So they are kind of multi-purpose. They don't always carry cargo, but they can carry cargo. Okay. So when we see those up and they're doing their patterns like this right here, this isn't a 135. This is going to be a Pegasus, which is the new refuelers, 767 refuelers. And I say new, I just mean compared to the 135s and KC-10s. But like these, for example, you got little two ships of air refuelers running out. Now, when you see them flying, and especially the 135s, if you see them flying on the air refueling routes, we'll go over here and select that real fast. This is air refueling tracks. All these little blue lines right here are going to be designators for air refueling. So they're going to have an altitude and kind of a swim lane, so to speak. And so what we were looking for on the 135s is actually that type of activity. Now, this is kind of interesting. I don't think I've ever seen an air refueling block out in the middle of the country like this. And so that is a AR 637. That's typically what you would see when it comes to the Brits. Like over in the UK, they typically have these zones and not these swim lanes. Okay, so that right there is very interesting. I've never seen that before. So that, as you can see, there's not a lot of air traffic around that area either. So we'll keep our eye on that, because that tells me they've got something going on in that general region to have just a zone instead of just using this air refueling lane to put that zone in there. I find that kind of intriguing. So here's another P3. Looks like that's coming out of Waco area. All right. And headed eastbound. So between the P3s and the P8s, we probably have about 15 of those things up right now, which is very unusual. Okay, man, what a cluster. All right, let's now we'll zoom into Texas a little bit, get a closer look. A lot of this congestion in here are going to be your trainers. Okay, so we've got some beautiful weather here in Texas today. I think the high is about 80, but it's clear skies and just, it's very nice out. So one thing I will point out is I've been watching over the last week, we've had quite a few French Airbuses, and the UK has been sending these Airbuses down to Killeen, Texas, okay, which is right kind of in this general area right here. And I'm going to keep my eye on it. If you guys live down there or you're kind of in that general area, hill country, which I think is kind of out here, but if you're in that general area and you got eyes on and you want to see what's going on, that would be much appreciated. I don't really know what's happening down here, but for us to get the French and the Brits into this area, I mean, regularly. These flights have been coming and going all last week, and I see them actually inbound today too. I'd be interested to see what's going on down here. So let's see this. Where did you go? I just saw you. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. All right, now this looks to be a 3-ship of C-130s headed westbound, and typically we're gonna X. All right, now that one and another X, that's their call sign. These, when we see these, there's usually more than that. We're just not seeing all of them. Okay, usually get a leader that's gonna bump out there, and then another one. Let's see where this thing's coming out of. It looks to be, there's bottom. I don't really know what area that is, but let me back it up a little bit. My map is not giving me a whole lot. So it looks like it's east of Sherman and west of Bonham. And it's kind of in the Texas, the northern Texas, the Arkansas. There's Dallas right here. So yeah, that's a Red River running through here. So I think that's the border of Texarkana. So yeah, it's coming out of Texas. Now, one thing I will tell you is I've been watching, here's some more air refuelers. There's a C-17 there, but these air refuelers, see them running this track right here. They're running this line, so they're going to be doing some air refueling out here. But what's interesting is, notice you got the congestion of fighters over here, but this is just wide open skies. I don't see anything going on here. But that said, I've been digging into this El Paso thing and this Charleston piece and FEMA. And what I think we're seeing, folks, is these trips that are being utilized by Kalita Air. We're going to dig into this a little further. Coming out here to El Paso, I think what we're watching is actually, I think we've got some immigration stuff going on. I think FEMA is pumping in a bunch of money, and I'll show you because I found actually the press release on the 12th to kind of indicate that. Now, my understanding is that we've got a sea of kids coming through. You remember that, right? So, but they are unaccompanied minors, and so these kids are being basically, taken into different areas. And I'm sure there's people that are getting paid just crazy money to house these kids and things of that nature. And so, we'll continue to watch that. But there's, I don't know. I feel like we're just getting taken to the cleaners here. Like every day I look at the money being spent, it's just print more money. Okay. All right. So here it looks like we've got some more air refueling boxes. Again, unusual. I don't think I've ever seen them do this before. So it's a first for me. But maybe that's a new thing. They're getting ready to just start doing like the UK does, where they just give them some zones where they're doing air refueling instead of holding them to a line. Maybe that gives them more flexibility in terms of weather and things of that nature. And I see another one out here, up on the East Coast. So this must be a new thing. So we'll just go with it, and maybe that we expect to start seeing those more and more. Another one here off the coast. I imagine they're probably probably a lot more flexible, but they also probably are doing a lot of refueling those areas, and trying to maintain that track, is probably going to be pretty tough. And so Okay, so there is that. Now let me go take these boxes, air refueling boxes, off the grid there, so it's not clogging things up. All right, now this right here, this little D328 de Havilland, or sorry, Dornier, it's a C146. That I believe is we're watching our magma birds again. So if you remember, we used to watch the magma birds, or special operations. They come out of the Crestview area, and they've been going in and out of Puerto Rico and South America, like Colombia and Venezuela and that area, Bogota. So we'll continue to watch them as well, get them back on our watch list. So definitely got some operations going on that ongoing. And I was thinking it was originally some deportations or arrests, and it could be, but we'll see. We'll see. So, okay. So let's get over here to not my president, Joe Biden. This is his event for today. So this is Monday. It looks like he is staying in the White House. Now, I will tell you, yesterday I was watching uh, Wilmington, Delaware to DC like a hawk, and I could not. There were no aircraft, in terms of Air Force One or anything like that. But I'm pretty confident he flies Marine One to that location, because it's only 120 miles and that thing's got pretty good range on it. And so, why break out the giant aircraft when you can just take two people, hop them on, probably with the security detail following, and 120 miles is a pretty short hop. So I would imagine he's probably taking Marine One, which I can't see Marine One on my trackers, just so you guys know. So, but we'll continue to watch and see. This guy, man, he is not leaving the country, which I find very interesting. I wonder if if you remember, there were some rumors about arrest warrants out for him at one point, like Ukraine and some of the other, and that may be why we saw them kick Ukraine a lot of cash. Just maybe it's a little buying them some time, but something just seems off. Now, I honestly don't know how. As a person that formerly had my security clearance is not active anymore. It's actually dormant, I guess you could say, just kind of idle. But for someone that has had probably some indictments against him and some of the other questionable things and all of these discoveries that were coming out, in the last year or so between him and Hunter, I don't know how he could even hold a security clearance. And that may be why we're seeing a lot of this stuff happening, where you've got a VP flying as Air Force Two, but a president flying as an NA. And so there's something. He's probably not able to get a security clearance, I would imagine, even though they can probably get anybody they want to can have clearances. But I'd certainly say he's a security risk, which is kind of scary to think about that. So, all right, let's zoom in here. Looks like we've got a couple of air refuelers bumping in front. You got a B-52 Chill 12 call sign. Looks to be both all headed eastbound. And so now that one looks like he just took off, but he's already up at altitude, 26,000 feet, kind of hanging. Now, I would imagine there is probably, if we were to turn our air refueling track back on, we would see that a line bumping in here. So we're about to see a B-52 hook up and get some gas. So not uncommon. Now, B-52s, what they'll do is they'll take off light and then take on some fuel once they get airborne, because to go heavy, it kind of commits them to airtime, right? And so if they bump out of there at 285,000 pounds of fuel and have to take off wet, and it's kind of a hot mess. And then you're airborne for a long time, and so they will typically go a little bit lighter, flying around 265, and then get up and take on fuel, and then continue on with their mission. So anyway, all right, so let's get over to Guantanamo Bay. Let's take a look at the spa and see what is going on. So I'm actually going to dig into the VIP TFRs here in just a minute. So for Denver tomorrow, that's a good question. It could be Biden heading out that way. Remember, the deep state has a huge operation in Denver, and so that was where I think a lot of their shadow operations were taking place over the last 4 years. So we'll keep an eye on that one, but we'll pull that up here in just a minute. Now you're showing Air Force Two is up, headed to Nevada. So let's get back over here real fast. Let me back out, and let's get down here on our filters. And let me see what I can find. So come on, I need you to go away. And all right. So by the way, if you jump on and you've got 200 and something aircraft that are showing, and you want to just basically scroll through, because it'll actually tap out at the bottom like this, right? You know, it only goes, it's alphabetical, right? So so you just have to hit type again, and that'll take you to the next level. And so now we're into the T's, and I see a couple PC-12s, some P8s are there again. Let's hit it one more time, and then we'll start getting into the 752. There we go, Air Force 2. All right, so now you notice that flight pattern looks really wonky. That's because it's Air Force 2, and they're probably using some electronic jammer stuff, but you never get a clean run because they don't want you knowing exactly where that aircraft is. And so you'll see that on other aircraft too, but that's why it gets all kind of funky in there. So anyway, so that said, all right, yeah, you're right. Looks like it's headed to Nevada. So now note it is Air Force 2. And like I said, she's doing it, but the others are not. So I do find that quite interesting where, you know, he's not, every time he gets on, there is no Air Force 2. So I'm telling you, there's definitely something to that. That's not just a coincidence. I mean, you know, if you were president and you jumped on Air Force One, you'd want it to be saying Air Force One, right? I mean, it's kind of like bragging rights. And the fact that you're not doing it tells me either you're not allowed to do it or something else is going on. So, all right. So that said, let's get back over here. So we're looking at Guantanamo Bay. Now, what we're looking for here are these flights. This is going to be Air Transport International. So we're looking for these Charleston flights to see if we maintain a rhythm back and forth. So now if we start to see this tempo continue on, then that means that they've now added some additional supply runs out of Charleston to Guantanamo Bay, and that'll just become a normal thing. So I think what we're seeing are spikes because this Biggs Air Force Base, and I'm going to show you some more stuff in a minute, but there seems to be some pre-positioning of assets at the Biggs location, and that's because that's El Paso. And again, I'll show you how I came up with that, but I just noticed some other things happening. And so this is what looks like is on our board for actually, it was up till Friday. And we don't really have anything. If I look at arrivals for, let's see here, en route, we've got, come on, there we go. All right, so we only have one. That's going to be a United Airline charter that's coming out of Jacksonville Naval Air Station, and that's tomorrow at 9:40. Things are kind of interesting in that I don't have a lot of my regulars flying today, which seems odd. And normally, like I hit this on a Monday morning, they're all up, okay? So this is going to be our Maxwell bird. As you guys know, this is going to be N312FU. That thing hasn't flown in over a week, but I imagine we're going to probably see some activity. Last flight looked to be a maintenance check flight, and so that one will probably bump back in, but it's sitting idle right now. So one of the things I will tell you I discovered, because just out of curiosity, I wanted to see what it costs to fly one of these birds, just to charter one, okay? And there's an hourly rate that goes with it. So if you go over to, say, for example, NetJets, okay? And these are probably along the same lines, I imagine, because their operating costs per hour are all going to be pretty much about the same when it comes to these little birds. But they're paying anywhere from $2,600 an hour to $3,500 an hour. And so that right there, when you start talking $3,600 an hour, $3,500 an hour on 14-hour flight round trip, so 28 hours of flight, it's going to run them almost $100,000 to just do that flight. So when we see these flights that are the little Lears or Gulfstreams or whatever bumping up and heading to across the drink and the pond, over to Africa and things like that, man, our government is spending some insane money flying. Now, is that less than probably what it takes to fly a C-17? Yeah, I'm sure of it. But our operating costs are tremendous. And so for us to charter these things and throw these dignitaries on there, they're spending our money like ain't nobody's business. Okay. All right. So Bill Taylor, you're talking about troops going to be leaving D.C. soon. I actually just read on the DoD website that they are extending. I want to say about 3,000 of them or so just got approved for an extension to stay. So I don't think they're leaving. I think maybe the larger quantity of them are leaving, but there's going to be a baseline amount that look to be staying put. So, but we'll keep our eye on that one, okay? And so, all right, let's get over here to Diego Garcia. Looks like we have another Air Transport International that popped in, and that was on last Tuesday, coming out of Yokata Air Base, Japan. And so, Karen, so you're asking about, so why are none of them there in DC? You're talking about the troops? I don't know. They're all supposedly there. I just saw the extension, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I know there's people with boots on the ground, so I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. I don't know, but all right. Let's get back over to the Kalita stuff. All right, so this is our N331CK. That's our most active. Now this one, if you notice, it landed about a day ago, so that was on Sunday, yesterday. It went from Charleston over to El Paso, okay? And so if you notice, this thing is doing regular round robins, Charleston to El Paso, almost every day. And so that's where I think this is all tied, Charleston to the FEMA and the Border Patrol and all the other stuff. So they are definitely moving either assets outbound, things that kids need, from food supplies to clothing to whatever. But they certainly are doing that. And Charleston's a pretty big transport hub. So, okay, so you're saying people aren't seeing any troops there in D.C. So that's very interesting. I believe all the chain link stuff is still up, right? All the fencing. So I don't know, that's a crazy thing, but I did just see it get an approval for extension to leave. It was like 3,000 troops there, and that's on the DoD website. It was a press release, and that was last week. I want to say the 9th or so. So, well, we'll see what happens. I will tell you later this week, keep your eyes peeled, because they have, I think they're expecting some upheaval in some of the major cities. I say that because they've got the attorney or the trial going for the George whatever his name was case. I think that's starting. So I imagine people are going to start to get stupid again. So anyway, all right, let's get over to the Phoenix Air flights. Now this one is the one we've been watching coming out of San Nicolas Island, California to Oxnard. Now one of the things I want to point out on this is the rhythm, okay? If you'll notice, you're going to see Thursday 7:05, Friday 7:05 p.m. Now that's a back-to-back flight, so that one it did a round robin and went back out. But there are some type of tempos we're seeing here in terms of the time slots that these things are taking off. And this one here again 7:12, so 7:05, 7:10. They seem to have a schedule in play. It's not a full-on schedule, like it looks like they're holding to it, so it looks like it slides around a little bit. But I would imagine this is we've got some type of government contracting stuff going on out here, and these guys are just getting flown back and forth to the island. Again, similar to the flights that we see in going from El Segundo out to China Lake, the whitetails that they always talk about. Okay, all right, our sniffer. That thing landed about 3 days ago, so last flew on March, but it's up here. It was just doing some stuff around the brown zone, so I imagine you can see right here the altitude line. You guys can see it dips down, goes back up, dips down, goes back up. Same thing, right? There's a pattern here. And so they're basically doing air quality sample checks, driving down low, sample up high, sample down low, sample. And so that's what you're seeing there. And so they seem to be really concerned about this area. I don't think I've ever seen, just in the last handful of years. So there must be some intel going on that they're expecting somebody to do, either chemical, biological, or nuclear somewhere in this general region. So, all right, let's look over to our No Justice aircraft. This is going to be N721AL, currently scheduled to leave Wichita, Kansas. And let's see where it, so it went on the 15th, which was 9:04 this morning. It flew out of Manassas over to Wichita, Kansas, and it looks like it's going to come back here. Same thing. Scheduled about noon back. Probably, if I had to imagine, it's going back to Manassas. But that is where our DOJ team is currently located. So we'll watch for press releases and things of that nature. But that's usually a little go team. Okay. All right. Genesis 622. Looks like that thing went down to Macon, Georgia, back up to DC. So that was a round robin that took place on Monday. Spent the week down there in Georgia and then came back. Now, this is where I found the FEMA thing. And so I want to show you that real fast. Okay. So FEMA announces a $510 million bogey for an emergency food and shelter program. So you know what that's going to. All right. And so this is it's available through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Now, I don't know why we have to be rescued other than from this current administration, but that said, this is supposedly organizations aiding our nation's hungry and homeless. But note, there's an additional $110 million for organizations providing humanitarian assistance to migrants from the southern border. That, folks, is going to be why we're seeing all that activity in El Paso. I'll bet money on it. Now, if you guys have ever followed and tracked this money, that what happens is they go and get basically they find people that are willing to house these kids. Okay, they also have little I guess shelters, FEMA camps, kind of so to speak, loosely that they are utilizing. And so but they will pay people some insane money to basically, hey, if you want to hold one of these illegals until they become legal, they'll basically pay people and it's thousands of dollars per child every month. And so it's pretty crazy, but that's what they're up to. Okay. So, and so this El Paso stuff, I think what we're seeing is they're probably busing kids all over the country from there, if I had to guess, given the influx. And also remember that we have TFRs that run along this border too. And so it's very focused. And let me see here real fast. I do want to see. All right, so these are our current Kalita birds that are up. And so it looks like this one is headed from, again, this is down in the Dominican Republic. So it looks like we've got an alternate bird now that is doing that route that's going from Miami to Haiti and to the Dominican Republic. So, okay. And this one is our other one, which let me see where that thing is. It's en route and on time. So coming out of New Orleans, going to Palm Beach. All right. So these guys, we definitely want to keep our eye on Kalita because those are agency rented birds. All right. Now, here's where I started to see a little bit of a pattern. Now, what we're looking at here on the screen, this is going to be your Atlas Air. So these are going to be your large heavies, 747s or 767s that are going to be flying cargo and troops and things of that nature all across the globe. Okay. And so you see they have some pretty regularly established routes coming out of Asia and, and then they also are here down into South America. And they go over to Europe a little bit, but most of their work is here, as you can see. Okay, that's their bread and butter. Now, let's get down here. I want to show you one of the things that I noticed was this flight right here, which came out of Fort Campbell, which is our Army airfield, and it went to, look, Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. And that is actually not, it's headed en route as we speak, okay? So here again, we've got troops getting moved into this area. So I think they're staffing up to basically mitigate all of the influx of immigration, rush that's coming down at the border. So that's, I think, what we're seeing. All right. So that kind of confirms what we were looking at with the Charleston back and forth supply runs. This looks to be basically stepping up the head count. Okay. All right, so that is where we are. Now let me pop over here. I'm going to pull up our, these are going to be our active TFRs. And so it looks like we still have an ongoing TFR. It hasn't changed any. Let me turn these fires off. So as you guys can see, the fires right now breaking out across the US are off the chain, man. It's pretty crazy. So let me turn that off. All right. Okay, so that layer is off, but looks like our VIP TFRs are still maintaining over his residence. And if we get down here, we have, looks like we've still got that active one that's over the Macon, Georgia area, which is a security TFR. Got it down here on the borders. And we've got this one right here. Now, one of these is a regular. I'm going to pop into these real fast, but let me just look. This is a security TFR, and that is interesting. I don't know what that's for, but just take note of it. Security TFR down there in, looks like that is just outside southern Mississippi, right on the Louisiana border. And so, all right, now let me get in. Let's see what this TFR is here. Another security TFR. Now that's San Angelo, so that one's the one we always see that's out there, okay? Then we've got this one, which is going to be another TFR, which is going to be Burnett, Texas. And that's an air show. And so I guess that air show probably just ended, but that's out. Now, Killeen, or yeah, I guess I'm saying that right. This is the location. Notice you got the Fort Hood Military Reservation right here. So in this general area, this is where we're seeing all of the increase of the UK and the French aircraft. So I don't know if we got some NATO stuff standing up or they've got some other programs going on. Not uncommon for them to come over here, but I've not, that's the first time I've seen them just go all week back to back to back. So, all right, this is going to be our TFR that's on the border here. That one's always there. And this El Paso area right in here is going to be where we're seeing the bigs, the Fort Bliss, right? This is where we're seeing the uptick in border activity and immigration. All right, let's head out here to Vegas. So I guess this is going to be our VIPs that you guys are just talking about for TFRs. And so we got an air show TFR. And let me see what this other one is. VIP. So that's going to be Air Force 2. So I guess she's coming out. Now that air show should be going away. I think that thing actually already ended. But, and then another, those are probably other VIPs. Yeah. All right. No telling what she's doing. But you know, Vegas, baby, what happens in Vegas, that's what she's doing. All right, so these, let me see here. Now these are new. Now this one's not. This is going to be, that's probably your Disney. So security TFR, yeah, Disneyland theme park. This one's going to be what we have here, another VIP. So it looks like she's going from Vegas to home. So it looks like the vice president's going to be out here in Los Angeles. So I don't know why she has two locations, but maybe one's her old office. I don't really know. But there you have it. So that looks like our VP is on the move. So she's going to go from Vegas out here to California. And that one is our normal air. That's going to be security, and that's Beale Air Force Base. Okay, and then let me get out here because I saw some in the middle of the U.S. for Denver. And let's see what this is. Now, these are what you're talking about earlier, VIP. And that one is another VIP. So, yeah, I think what we probably now maybe you have Biden coming out here. I doubt it's well, it could be the VP. He doesn't have anything on a schedule yet, but that's probably upcoming. And so, again, this right here, this general area is one of our known deep state locations. So they run a pretty big operation out here in Denver. And as we get up here in the northern areas, looks like we got a couple more TFRs. That's going to be hazards. And looks to be tied to mining. And this one here, another hazard. So I would imagine same deal, U.S. Steel Corporation. So yeah, this is all tied to mining stuff up here. Same thing. All right. So there we have it. All right, that's going to be our TFRs for today. Now, let me back out real fast. I'm going to see what we've got. Spin around here out here to the Pacific. Now, this is another, we get out here over Hawaii. Now, my understanding is This is going to be a hazards TFR. There was some pretty bad flooding and weather that took place, and I think this is tied to mudslides and some other what they call HEMA, which is the Hawaiian FEMA thing, or KEMA, sorry, Kauai Emergency Management Agency, KEMA. So that's an incident response area. All right. And what is this? I don't think I've ever seen that before. I guess it's okay. All right. Let me back out just a little further. Let's get out here to other areas of the Pacific. And looks like we got another. There was a TFR out here. This looks to be in Guam. That's a security TFR. That's always there. And our earthquakes look to be still firing. And so does our storm. Okay. All right. So that's where we are. That's where we have it for today. So I will be doing my SITREP for tomorrow. Let me get over here real fast. Let me just take a look at England and in the Middle East. Let's let that marinate for a second, see what pops up. Middle East looks pretty busy. We'll delve down in there and get a little closer look. But tomorrow's SITREP, I'm either going to be doing it early or late. I've got activities going on all day from midday till about 4 or 5 o'clock. So I'm going to try, if I can, I'll get in and do an earlier SITREP. And then, excuse me. And then for this weekend, Sunday, we're going to be doing our Watchman Hour. That's going to be on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central. I'll put a link out there for you guys on Patreon. But that is going to be a focus this time. We're going to look at the 4 horsemen and on Matthew 24. And not just from the biblical content perspective of what it means, what it says, because we're going to stick to the word. It is what it is, right? But we're going to delve into the data. And you guys are going to be shocked because I've been pulling in the data this week, and I've got to basically build my videos. But they're basically animations showing the timeline, a span of time relative to earthquakes and volcanoes and wars and pestilence and all these different things. And it's staggering to watch how it is just straight ramping up as you get over time. It starts out kind of slow, and then it just starts firing. And it's pretty compelling when you look at it as to where we are. Talk about birth pains, man. It's pretty amazing. So I'm really excited to share that information with you guys. Hopefully we can get it all done in an hour. So, all right. So here's where we are right now. Let's pop this back up. We did persistence mode. And so over Iraq right now, looks like we got some C5s that are heading out of Qatar. And let's see, that's going to be our tanker. And so it looks like we got some fighter activity going on over here. And those are going to be our tankers supporting that. Got a C-130, looks like it's doing the same. Now keep in mind, these C-130s can also be used as refuelers. And so they just support a different type of aircraft. So that's probably F-35s. You're going to get the Marine variant, which is the VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. And those actually can fly a little bit slower. And their air refueling capabilities are little booms that stick out to the side of the aircraft, and then they hit that fishnet thing that I've showed you guys in the past. And so that, when you see the C-130s up doing air refueling tracks, that's going to be helicopters, probably the Marine Corps doing stuff. Now F-18s will do the same thing. They'll bump right into that, as will F-35s. So, all right. Now got some C-17. Looks like that one is just doesn't really look. Looks like he took off and he's flying backwards. So software is glitching. So looks like he's headed southbound to a UAE area. And then we've got this French A400, which is a high wing 4-engine turboprop. And he looks to be headed out into that general Qatar UAE area as well. So let's see what he does. Okay, now over here to the UK. Again, we see a lot of the helicopter. These are trainers that are up over this area. And we've got some tankers, which look to be doing that area. Now, if I go into, again, let's look at the UK air refueling tracks. You guys see the similarities here. This is what America is starting to do. We're starting to do the same thing, it looks like. All right, they just give them a box to play in. And so, and then we got this little SAM 996 that looks to be coming from, where'd you come out of, dude? Yeah, it looks like a DC area. So it looks like we got some dignitaries headed into, that's probably going to land in at London Heathrow, and then who knows where they'll go from there. But now I do know we have some dignitaries off in Japan right now, that they are all over there doing some type of a thing in Korea and Japan. So that's going to be our State Department and our Secretary of Defense. So just keep our fingers crossed that they don't do too much damage. So, okay. And over Hawaii, looks like we got a couple H-60s that are flying around doing some work. I imagine they're supporting some of the emergency efforts too. So, okay. Well, that's it, guys. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. And I will pop back on if anything crazy happens. In addition, I'm going to keep my eye on these P8s because it's just crazy to see that many. It's just unusual, like I said, to see that many up at one time. And so we'll continue to watch it. And so let's see here. Okay, I'm just seeing you guys in the chat. All right. Well, that's all I've got. So listen, you guys be safe. God bless. And monkey out.